Hello, everybody. It is June 2nd, 2024. How are you all? So, it's Sunday, and you would think it would be a quiet day in terms of news, but no, there are no more quiet days, especially not in the internet era. Hello, Analog Synth Player, Alicia DeMoss, Sandra, Gil, hello, D. Moore, Andrew Cruz, Dr. Donald J. Trump, MD, hello, and Chihuahua Meow Pet Adventures, okay, hi, that's a mouthful. Michael Mossberg, flash flooding here in Seattle, not surprised. The river is back in June that we normally get in November. Carol said it would eventually affect everyone sooner or later. Yeah. We are usually dry and in the 70s during this time. We barely make it out of the 50s now, and nobody notices when I mentioned it. Yeah, well, that's the way of the world, I guess. Julie, hello. And Mr. Feast, I'm not sure how you pronounce that. Agnes, Donna Davidson, and James B., Justin Wynn, B-Dub. I have, over the years, a number of times surrounded myself with shungite and nothing happened. So, Rage Against the Machine, Jane Northrup, Oracle 11, Sheepdog Patriot, Sith Trish, BMCC, Patricia White, Kim Blanchard, hello, Carol, hello. So, if I've missed anybody, I apologize. And T. Lamb, hey, thank you very, very much. I much appreciate the blue people. I much appreciate all people. But yes, shout out to the blue people. Cecilia Amarati, Silent Walk, Mental Pancakes. Hello, hello, hello. So let's take a look at radar, shall we? Wow. Now, isn't that interesting? Supercells activating in line in the same area, the same line, and they've been activating there day after day. Dallas is getting hit with the Dallas area, the Fort Worth area. North Texas is getting hit with severe weather, thunderstorms. These little nanobots are activating into supercells. And look at this. Do you see this line of plasma? Just accelerate. It's accelerating the supercell manifestation. You see this line? That's an awful lot of power in that line. Look at that. So, also, you've got these supercells in Oklahoma, Colorado, Nebraska, South Dakota, North Dakota, Minnesota. And rain, 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 blasting the extremely low frequencies in Washington, in the pretty much all of Washington except for the center here is being affected by extremely low frequencies. And look at Oregon also getting the rain. Wildfire in California. Close to Livermore Labs. But look at this. Unfortunately, I cannot get my Windows Media Player working, so I can't show you captures. but there's an awful lot of twinkling going on in the area. It's in between Modesto and Stockton. So they have a lot of frequencies pulsing away. I will show you just some pictures that I captured of satellite, and you really should be able to see the frequencies. Off the coast, unfortunately I can't play these, but right here are the extremely low frequencies. Right there, and here, and oh, the winds were very high. It's the winds that are making this rather unbearable. You can see the extremely low frequencies right in this area. Yeah. This entire area, which is where the fire is just blasting away with frequencies. Okay. And boy, they sure are. Look at this. Look at the speed of the air mass up here in Northern California. Lots of twinkling going on. So, stay safe, everybody. You have an awful lot of these supercells activating down here in Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, Kentucky. And a blip here in New York State. Tornado alert. You got an alert in South Dakota, Kingsbury. An alert in Brown, South Dakota. Pecos, Terrell, Texas. Clark, Hamlin, South Dakota. Goodhue, Minnesota. Now, I need to refresh. Okay, good. Brown, South Dakota. Expired, but you just got another one 13 minutes ago. Brown, South Dakota. Okay, I hope you are all safe. I hope you're all prepared for anything to take place. But this is amazing. This really needs to be questioned, don't you think? Texans, how is it that you have supercells igniting right in this area in a line every day? Every day. So, let's do fires. It's the Corral Fire near Tracy and Livermore, California. Very, 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 extremely hot. The white flames. Several structures have been taken out. Look at this. It's not wildfire temperature, not forest fire temperature. Something else is going on here. But did you notice this car? All right, well, the car has been eaten through.
Breaking news in San Joaquin County. Evacuation orders are in place from the Corral fire. This is a live look right now at the scene. To give you some perspective, this is 580 near Corral Road. And so this is where it looks like the fire may or may not jump 580. This has been burning for more than 8 hours now south of Tracy. We know that many people are dealing with power outages. It's luckily down to the hundreds. It was in the thousands, but right now it's down to the hundreds. Let's begin with the latest for evacuations. People from Corral Hollow Road to south of where 580 and Interstate 5 join together are under mandatory evacuation orders. It's this entire area in red. So those west of the California Aqueduct also have to evacuate. The evacuation orders stretch west to Alameda County and south to Stanislaus County. 580 is closed in both directions through the evacuation zone because of all of the smoke and zero visibility. We also just got new word from Caltrans tonight that 580 is actually closed now. It's extended from the Alameda County line all the way to the Stanislaus County line, and that State Road 132 is closed from 580 to State Road 33 because of that wildfire. So that closure just extended within the past few minutes.
So that was yesterday. The power outages in California, 13,173. Texas, 54,959. I swear, they're going to black out Texas, all of it. None of you are going to have power. Louisiana, 10,659. So, this is where the Corral fire is. Stockton, Modesto, and Livermore, Labs. I thought this was interesting. So this is a flyover of the fire. All right, I'm not quite sure what to make of. Was this where the fire was? All of this black? Or are we looking at something else? There's no audio. So what are we looking at? This was the fire? Flies over Corral fire. So all of this black was the fire. It sure does have a lot of very sharp lines. Come on. If this was the fire with all of that wind and it keeps that whole area pristine, it somehow doesn't affect any of these buildings, which is rather strange in my book, especially with those flying embers, right? What is going on? What am I looking at? All right. I guess that's the fire. Well, look at this. This is the fire. The trees, the bushes, the homes next door, completely fine. And, well, the house brought to dust. And another one, another structure here. The trees are fine, but that also brought to dust. It looks like the cars were hit. Are you really going to tell me that that is a wildfire? It's a wildfire? No. we once again have these directed energy weapons in use. Look at this. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And unbelievable that people are not questioning what's going on here. Where is it? All the cars. It looks like there's another structure back here. Structure here. Structure here. Somehow it jumped from here, but missed the trees and missed what looks like just dead limbs up here, and literally took away the structure and all of these cars. Well, in my book, that begs questions. It's getting really tedious. Flooding. This is in, is this Russia? Yeah. All over the world. This flooding in Germany, it's continuing, a dam burst, a whole lot of destruction.
Throughout the day after heavy rain on Saturday caused severe flash flooding. A state of emergency has been declared in Bavaria. The most affected areas are Triftern, Simbach am Inn and Tann between the rivers Rot and Inn. According to Reuters, in the small town of Fischach near Augsburg northwest of Munich, the Schmutter River caused significant flooding, causing part of the railway bridge to be submerged by waves. Flooding also affected streets and fields, forcing firefighters to cordon off areas and divert traffic away from the worst affected areas. In nearby Jessertshausen, about 5 miles from Fischach, locals observed 2 ducks swimming gracefully across a flooded street. predicted heavy rain overnight, especially in the eastern state of Thuringia, northern Bavaria, and the southern state of Baden-Württemberg. Weather conditions are expected to improve as rain moves east towards France.
Weather conditions are expected to improve. Yay! Right? Germany is in danger. Severe flooding in Bavaria, in Baden-Württemberg. Look at this.
German Weather Service warns of storms on Saturday, especially in parts of Bavaria, Baden-Württemberg and Bavaria on Saturday. Record levels are expected, especially on smaller.
Oh man, just goes on all the time. All right, 3 friends filmed in final embrace before being swept away by flash floods in Italy, and they're still looking for these 3 people. "20-year-old, 23-year-old, 25-year-old. Yeah, this is not fun. And South Africa, once again, the Eastern Cape.
Affecting Kariega and Seaview. Homes have been flooded, vehicles washed away, and residents are plunged into darkness. The Nelson Mandela Bay municipality says more than 60 people were rescued, adding that the Joint Operations Centre has been activated to determine the extent of flooding. Emergency services officials are working to assist those affected, and several roads have been closed off to traffic.
Hier's kak by ons werk. Kyk, die karre spoel rond, die rivier kom af, lyk dit vir my. Check hier, ons agterdeur. Wat the fuck? Hier gaan die bakkie. Gaan Warren se kar. Tweeënste donne. Hier kom Warren se kar, hier kom Warren se kar. Oh. Maar en dan gaan jou kar ook nou. As jou bakkie weer daar staan. Ja. Warren! Warren sê order.
Don't think there's much you can do. You know, what's interesting is that we're getting more articles and videos, mainstream media, talking about the world's population is shrinking. It's shrinking here. America's shrinking population. The economic impact. How about the impact on climate change, right? They're talking about, oh my God. Well, you get these conflicting reports out of the United Nations. They have been reporting for several decades now that, well, at least 2 of this fertility crisis all over the world, which means that the population is going down. We have more and more of mainstream media reporting the population is going down. Western nations, oh my God, we need these migrants because our population is going down. What about the impact for climate change? Now, they keep putting out those dire reports. The earth is just going to burn up. You got to put two and two together, right?
According to the CDC, 3.6 million babies were born in 2023 in the U.S. That's about 76,000 fewer than the previous year and the lowest one-year tally since 1979. Joining us with the economic implications of the declining U.S. birth rate, Melissa Kearney is an economics professor at the University of Maryland. Good morning to you. Somehow every story relates back to Elon Musk one way or another, and this is an issue that he's been talking about for quite some time, Melissa. How bad is it, and when do we have to really start worrying about it?
Yeah, well, first, thanks for having me on, Andrew. So it's actually quite likely that in the not too distant future, the global population is going to decline. But in the U.S., we're facing a shrinking working age population pretty imminently. So I think that's something that we need to be worried about.
And why? Why, Melissa? Could it be all of the poisons and toxins and the electromagnetic frequencies coming from devices, coming from cell towers, coming from Gwen towers that actually cause fertility? How about that Wi-Fi in the home and in the schools, where these experts have been warning about Wi-Fi in schools? Oh, don't put that laptop on your lap, boys, because that actually kills off your sperm. The Wi-Fi in the school causes infertility. But let's not talk about that, you economics professor, University of Maryland. Let's not talk about that. Let's not talk about all of the freak, psychopathic nut jobs who have been talking about getting rid of 90% of the population. Oh, we have to do that to save the earth. Let's not talk about that. I'm so sick of the bullshit. Residents frustrated as power outages from severe storms continue across North Texas. Let me just get rid of some of these windows.
Outage map right now, this looks better than it did earlier in the week, but over 17,000 are still without power. WFAA's Richard Solomon introduces you to some of the frustrated residents who have been calling our newsroom all day.
They've waited and waited and waited.
This room should be bright right now, but
Tuesday's storms knocked out power for more than 500,000 Encore customers, and thousands are still in the dark in this Farmers Branch neighborhood.
The biggest concern is, it'll go on another day or two.
Russell Ganser is eagerly waiting.
Yes.
Because of his father.
94, yes.
His 94-year-old pa has dementia and uses a wheelchair. And thankfully, a temporary spark was found across the street.
I just got this cord right here. Got great neighbors. You saw our makeshift cord here. So we keep him a fan in there, keep the windows open.
These neighbors asked if they could help. So many have lended a hand this week. But a few blocks down, still no power.
so I've got a few things left, but I've been trying to clean out, and I still have more to throw away.
Besides tossing out the food, Dale Stevens says he and his husband have had to sleep in a hotel the past few nights to get some kind of relief. But Encore says they are trying. We saw crews working to remove the rest of this tree off a down power line.
They're trying. All right, so this was yesterday, 17,000 of just Encore. But what did I say? 54,000 without power. As we speak, Atlanta facing water crisis after multiple major water main breaks at the same time.
Good evening. A crisis is unfolding across a major American city right now. Much of Atlanta does not have any water at all, and there is no end in sight. Take a look at this. This is just one of the water mains that burst on Friday. Now, more than 24 hours later, it's still gushing. One major hospital is now diverting most emergency patients and has to transport others to different facilities. The city's aquarium shut down. A major pop star's concert canceled. The mayor late today saying there is no timeline for repairs. George Solis starts us off tonight.
Tonight, a major American city is in crisis as a water outage wreaks havoc across Atlanta.
The water is a valuable, a critical a critical resource, and cities can't function and lives can't function without it. It's absolutely at the top of our list.
I think you don't have to say that. I think that's kind of a given, that water is a critical resource that people need. Look at this.
The outage sparked by multiple water main breaks that occurred Friday and tonight remain broken. Video showing the rupture sending water gushing onto streets.
People need their water, people gotta eat, people gotta cook, we got kids, we need help.
Atlanta's mayor apologizing for the city's initial lack of communication as he addressed setbacks today in repairs of the aging infrastructure.
And I will be candid that overnight we did not do the best job of communicating.
With every passing hour, the situation growing more tense as boil water advisories are extended. Emory University Hospital in Midtown Atlanta forced to divert patients. The hospital bringing in some 58,000 gallons of water via tanker trucks to use in the hospital's cooling towers as well as bottled water.
How detrimental has this interruption been to services at the hospital?
It's been an unbelievable challenge, both for our staff and for our patients.
Of course it would be. Okay? Oh my God. And, well, someone said in another broadcast that they thought it was aging infrastructure. What do your tax dollars go to? Maintaining the infrastructure? You think maybe this is deliberate to cause an awful lot of problems for people? You think? Could you consider it, Americans? Alright, so I got this from our own Jake McIntyre. I can't verify it, but he says that this is nanobots on his picnic table outside.
You can wipe with your hands. It's not going to do anything. Nanotech. If you don't know, you don't know. This is nanotech I just came across in my backyard on the picnic table. If you don't know, you don't know. That's why this pressure washed off. Now look at the nanotech. That is spreading. You can wipe with your hands, it's not going to do anything. Nanotech.
The nanobots do fall from the sky, but I've never seen anything like this, and I don't know what to make of it. Texas. Hey, ranchers. The eminent domain used by states, by cities, by town councils, stealing property, we just don't stand up, so this is what they do.
Place that we spent a lot of time filming at, that's Texas. Texas is not immune to a lot of the things that we see going on in the world today, especially with government agencies overusing eminent domain to take private property, specifically farm and ranch land from people. In Wichita Falls, for example, Ringgold Reservoir Lake was just approved by the Texas Water Conservation Environmental Board. This is a lake that has brought up a lot of controversy over the years. It's actually been in the plans since the 1950s. They've talked about the possibility of building this reservoir in the 1950s. The problem is it's not needed, okay? So they went through an entire court proceeding And the judge at the end of that proceeding made the recommendation to the Texas board that they not move forward with the lake reservoir because the city of Wichita Falls was unable to prove that they needed 65,000 acre feet of water. And the other problem that you have to realize is that in this particular area of Texas, or this particular area of the United States, lakes and reservoirs lose 3 to 4 times the amount of water to evaporation than they do to the actual usage of the residents. I thought this was an interesting subject to talk about because this isn't something you're going to see, party lines divided on. This is something you just see people divided on.
They don't care what happens to this community or us as individual landowners. They don't care. At a city council meeting that we wouldn't be able to go from our house to our barn. And how did she expect for us to handle that? And she just very glibly said, well, I suppose you'll have to build a bridge. Not just landowners, but we have representatives from Texas and Southwestern Cattle Raisers Association, from Texas Wildlife Association. We even had Senator Drew Springer's aide there who read a letter opposing the recommendation of the permit. Other landowners have 5 generations on the land. And that's what they have at stake here. Besides their livelihoods and productivity and profitability, there are legacies.
The bigger question...
And of course they don't care. We know they don't care. Well, I guess you're going to have to build a bridge. Wow. What a slap in the face, huh? The link is in the chat. It's just a 14.5-minute video. Eminent domain. Taken private property. And unfortunately, an awful lot of people, even if they file lawsuits, lose. The state wins. Insurance companies monitoring homes from the sky, causing headaches for some homeowners. This is going on now all over the country, and it's only increasing where they're using these drones and they're canceling home insurance on people who have, for no reason. You have an undeclared trampoline in the backyard, you better declare it with your insurance company. You could get your insurance policy taken away.
From drones to airplanes, even satellites, your insurance company may be watching from above.
Did this cause some sleepless nights?
In San Francisco,
instead of going house by house,
Jeremy Solterbeck was stunned after he received a notice that Safeco Insurance, his carrier for more than a decade, wasn't renewing his policy.
I couldn't believe this is how they decided, based on a tiny drone image, that we weren't worth insuring anymore.
When he pushed for why, they sent him this grainy image.
They're trying to show that the presence of dirt indicates that water has pooled and dried out.
And he's not alone. Consumer advocates say across the country, insurance companies are dropping some customers based primarily on aerial photographs. In Virginia, Elizabeth Davis was sent this photo that her insurance company said showed discoloration and streaking on her roof.
I was floored. I had a bit of a panic attack.
Her options, repair the damage or replace the entire roof. She found another carrier.
Sometimes there needs to be facts checked in order to make sure that that underwriting is correct. So
Sean Kevlin with the Insurance Information Institute says insurers are also searching for issues like undeclared trampolines, excessive yard debris, and overhanging trees, which can increase risk of a loss.
Certainly insurers are using technology and innovation to make sure that they have all the variables possible to best underwrite.
EagleView is one of the companies providing aerial images to the insurance industry. But they say their drones are only used to check out damage quickly when someone makes a claim. CEO Piers Dormeyer says the technology benefits the consumer and insurer.
This imagery, whether it's coming from an airplane or it's coming from a drone, is something that it's going to be part of the decision to potentially cancel a customer or raise their policies or potentially even lower them.
Consumer advocates say if you receive...
How many insurance companies do you think are going to be lowering insurance rates? All right, well, get used to it. Surveillance. overhead surveillance. Your grass cut? Your roof okay? You got any tall grass in the back? You got bushes next to the home? You got a crack in your siding? Not painted properly? Residents denied re-entry to the Realty building. This was the building that was bombed in Ohio. Was it Ohio? Man, I can't even remember now. Yeah, Youngstown, Ohio. And yeah, nothing seems to be going smoothly. Nothing seems to be going right anymore.
I'm here on the third floor of a parking garage. Just behind me is the Realty building that blew up on Tuesday. Tenants were given 2 emails and a physical memo giving details about when they could arrive anywhere between 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. on a 30-minute increment to get inside the building. Residents were lined up just outside of Champion Street when they were told that would no longer be the case. Tenants were hoping to retrieve personal items like passports, identification cards. One resident even wanted to retrieve his 2 snakes. They are now not being told exactly the reason why they cannot get into the building anymore. Tenant Charles Cook said he had a plan to get into the building.
I get it. If we can't go in, we can't go in. But don't give us false hope and say, hey, show up and you can go in and get the things that mean the most to you. You got 30 minutes to get in. So we've been preparing for this, you know. We went and bought suitcases and we're like, okay, we got 30 minutes. Let's run through the rooms, grab the things that we absolutely need, and let's get out of there because we understand the building's not safe.
We still have no official reason from the city officials or the building managers as to why these tenants can no longer get in.
No communication either. Don't expect to be treated well. Don't expect to be treated as if you matter. Don't expect to be treated with respect anymore. And you can count on being ignored an awful lot. And that's only going to increase. Santa Monica store manager lets loose on a shoplifter in viral video.
You give me my jacket right now!
You can hear the outrage in Amber Jolly's voice.
Give me back my jacket! Okay. Here you go. Give me the other one! Okay, here you go. Don't steal from my store!
This is from April 12th. She was recording as she confronted a young woman who she says stole a tote bag full of clothes from this Santa Monica store Jolly manages. Listen as the young woman, whose face we're blurring because she has not been charged, tries to tell Jolly what's legal or not, even as
she has not been charged.
She hands over the jackets. It appears she just stole.
Give me the other one!
That's it, that's all there is.
Let me look in your back!
Yeah, well, that's illegal.
Let me look in your back!
This is all my stuff.
Is it?
Jolly got back 2 jackets, and the video of the confrontation has since gone viral, with many who are fed up with other scenes like this of mob thefts and smash and grabs applauding her.
What compelled me is that I just know the owner works very hard to keep this business open. Businesses are closing left and right because of all this looting going on. The system's broken. Nothing is being done about it.
She says when she called police, they suggested she call the store's insurer. She's frustrated.
So I just think it's like, do people are trying to just get away with it because there's no consequences?
But maybe more than that, concerned for the community, but also for the young woman she went after.
I am worried for her, yeah. And that's why I think I had such a bad reaction, like a meltdown reaction, because I'm worried for her. And if she's already doing this,
don't show your face on Montana Avenue again.
Not charged. Oh, we are in trouble. 11-year-old kids are learning about anal sex. classrooms in California, but all over the country. All right. Again, Black Conservative 24. And I will put the link to his channel. Very good channel. I recommend it. But here we go.
Prepare yourself for what you are about to hear.
Our next public comment is by Mark.
Hello, good evening. I brought today a copy of the 7th grade Positive Prevention Plus, the book for the students. This is a student's workbook. I'll just read. This was given to 7th graders during the month of May, 7th grade, with their teaching health class, sexual education. How do you do abstinence? Think of abstinence as a verb. It's how you handle a relationship without having sexual contact, anal, oral, vaginal, or digital. So they explain. So I'm sure 11, 12-year-old child is gonna try to understand what is this, right? And depending who the teacher is, we have teachers' manuals when they are actually dictating teachers what to tell on the subjects, what to teach on the subjects. Then there are lots of class assignments. For example, step 1, imagine, this is the teachers telling the kids, right? This is their assignments. Imagine someone has decided to be abstinent. Create your own definition, description of what it means to be sexually abstinent, 11-year-olds. Second question, after creating a definition of what it means to be sexually abstinent, list reasons why being abstinent is important for you and your future. And then it says, brainstorm a list of all the safe, healthy, and legal activities you can do with someone without having sexual contact with them. They are more descriptive things. Then there's an activity, it's called red light, yellow light, green light. This is when the kids are given their lights and they're supposed to role play. First few words, oral sex, that's under yellow light. Donate blood, green light, that's a safer one. Anal sex, red light. Are these words being put into the minds and hearts of our kids as young as 11, 12-year-olds? And there's more. And then there are a few things that the teachers are instructed to teach. This is from the facilitator manuals. Organize the class into cooperative learning groups of 4 students per group. Distribute 4 cards to each group, 2 body fluids and 2 body openings. Ask the students to make, if they can, 1 combination of cards that transmits HIV and 1 combination that will not transmit. Ask each group to display and discuss whether their combinations of cards could or could not transmit HIV. So and then they go forward, and then this is for teacher to explain body fluid cards, blood, semen, vaginal fluids, breast milk, rectal fluid, urine, saliva, sweat, body opening cards, mouth, penis, whatever they're, all the rest, ear, navel, and I don't want to even read it. This is being read to 11-year-olds. Do you feel comfortable hearing all these things? So this is a child abuse happening inside classrooms, and I hope the parents hear this. So please, parents, go talk to your teachers. Usually these are science teachers who are instructed to teach these classes during their health and sexual class time. So this also happens in the 9th grade. The 9th grade, which is high school, they give the picture of the man and a woman. The kids are supposed to draw in the body openings and draw the body fluids. It's a cool activity, right? This is too exposing, and it's like it says it is porn. It's not supposed to be taught to 11, 12, 13, 14-year-olds. I don't think you would like to have your kids learning or hearing or discussing these things with their students, with their friends. They're teaching kids how to use these words. Yeah, the kids have imaginations, right? And they also are being provided with slides, with movies, with different types of things. So there's lots of material. I can go on and read a few other things. Ask students to identify all of the sexually transmitted infections they can name. So is an 11-year-old supposed to know all these names of the sexually transmitted diseases? They're like 15, 16. I don't think you know all of them. Why are they being taught to an 11, 12-year-old kids? Another ones, so I have more. Green light behaviors, sexual monogamy.
Thank you for your time.
This is child abuse. This is what's going on. This is what has been going on for way too long. And what does that mean? It means not enough adults are doing anything about this. Not enough adults. A whole lot of adults think, oh, well, I don't have children. So what? Parents or grandparents that my children are out of school already. So what? It matters to the greater society. Do people not get this? You need to check out when these school board meetings are taking place. I'm sure a lot of you have, some parents in your neighborhoods, in your community, and you can find out through them. And if you don't know, then get to know. You go to the school board meetings along with all of these people who are trying to fight against this. Because these people are truly sick mother effers. They are destroying children. They are abusing children. And this should not have been going on. Only getting worse and worse. For what? The last 20 years? Are you kidding me? It says a lot about our adult American population. Oh, children are precious. Oh, protect the children. Well, there's a football game on today, and I'm not interested. More than 3.5 million patients given pelvic exams without consent. What?
Surgery can be daunting. Patients put their lives in doctors' hands.
Does a patient have the right to know what happens to them when they are under anesthesia?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But according to doctors and medical students NBC News spoke with, sometimes surgery patients are given one of the most intimate procedures without their explicit consent, a pelvic exam.
On the surface of it, it seems like a violation of medical ethics, is it?
I would say it's a violation of bodily autonomy, certainly.
It may sound surprising, but Dr. Julie Kaur, an OBGYN, says the practice has been around for a while. Although exact numbers are hard to pin down because patients are often unaware, a recent study estimates that more than 3.5 million men and women may have received an unconsented intimate exam within the past 5 years. Dr. Kaur says the exams can be a key part of residents' training and may be performed during gynecological surgeries because it is easier, even if the patient doesn't actually need the procedure.
The muscles of the abdomen are more relaxed, so you can actually appreciate the anatomy in a kind of an easier way.
But consent should be mandatory, she says.
And I was asked to do a pelvic exam on a patient that I know I hadn't consented specifically.
Did you want to do it?
No, I did not.
Dr. Rohini Kaushal-Siva is the head of the American Medical Student Association.
I actually ended up saying no, that I wasn't going to perform this pelvic exam.
She is among a number of medical students who are speaking out.
It's just morally wrong. If you were in that position, would you want that happening to you?
Attention to the issue has led to 25 states enacting laws requiring explicit consent for pelvic exams on a patient under anesthesia. The American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists states that if the exam offers a patient no personal benefit and is performed solely for teaching purposes, it should be performed only with her specific informed consent. Some doctors have resisted the need for specific consent, arguing it's not necessary if general consent is given before going into the operating room, and the pelvis doesn't need to be treated differently than any other part of the body. But Dr. Kaur disagrees.
Because if you ask a patient how they feel and whether they would want to know if a student was doing an exam, patients overwhelmingly say, yes, this is different.
Hello? Is anyone home upstairs? What the hell? You know, and can't believe how young people look lately. I mean, she looks like she's in high school. Wow. All right, well, yeah, I mean, something's very wrong with our country. Americans, something's very wrong with an awful lot of Americans who do not understand the difference between wrong and right. They don't know what is right. I don't get it. And mom turns herself in, tells police she murdered her 2 small children in Missouri. Parents are killing their children. Children are killing their parents. Children are killing grandparents. And this is only increasing.
Jefferson County, Missouri mother tonight faces prosecution for murder in the deaths of her 2 children. Investigators have not yet said what might have motivated Ashley Parmalee of Peevely to shoot her daughter and drown her son. But what happened Tuesday morning has left everyone there shaken.
Festus police immediately went to the parking lot, identified and located a 9-year-old female victim with a gunshot wound, and attempted life-saving measures, but were unable to successfully save the 9-year-old.
Holy shit. What do you say to that? What do you say? Eyewitness shares details in road rage incident. This is only increasing as well.
Kevin Jolene, an eyewitness, says it was a tense interaction, most of it playing out in a Costco parking lot. She says she did what she could to diffuse that tension, but things simply went too far.
We were at Costco picking up stuff for the weekend.
Lexi Koch says it happened May 11th. She says she noticed a woman running through this parking lot.
And I heard this man just yelling at her, cussing, calling her all kinds of names. So I stepped out from my vehicle and this woman just grabbed onto me. She was shaking, terrified.
An affidavit says the man was Carter Walter Cox. Documents say the victim told police Cox had followed her into the store's Memorial and Western parking lot after they both became angry with each other's driving behavior.
She was concerned that he was going to be doing something.
Documents say the victim told officers he did do something, pulling up extremely close to her vehicle before leaning out of the driver's side window and using some sort of a metal object to scratch the paint.
The paint did look freshly peeled. You know, when you scratch something, it has those little, curls on it.
Documents say the estimated cost to repair the damage was between $4,000 and $6,000. They also say Cox agreed to a phone interview, admitted to being involved in an altercation with the victim, but went on to say that he knew better than to admit to anything.
I couldn't just let that happen. I can't. It's not in me to stand by.
And we did stop by Cox's address to get his side of the incident. We were told by someone living inside. He says he's been harassed enough and didn't want to talk about it anymore.
Yeah. Well, Florida crime of the week. Lifeguard runs truck over girls in Daytona Beach.
It's after road rage spirals out of control. This all happened in Brevard County over the weekend.
I think the title of this video might be wrong.
A mother and her 3 children were inside this SUV when the suspects reportedly pulled up behind them and then forced them off the road. The 2 suspects then allegedly got out of the vehicle and opened fire.
You're talking road rage here. Kids in the car, 9 shots into the windshield. I mean, how nobody's dead? You know, God was smiling down on somebody.
The 2 suspects were tracked down and arrested. They are charged with aggravated assault and attempted murder. They're expected to be in court tomorrow.
Well, we're learning more details about this woman. Tiffany Alexander was hit and killed last week by an alleged drunk driver in Winter Springs. And that is our big story at 5:30 today. The woman accused of causing that crash is still behind the bars today.
Fox 35's Chris Lindsay talked to one of Tiffany's friends about the tragic sequence of events.
It was just all a blur and just a rush of emotions.
This tragic moment changed the lives of 2 families in Winter Springs forever. Last Tuesday morning, Michael Smith was on the phone with his wife, Stephanie.
10 seconds into our conversation, Steph just started screaming and said, I gotta go.
Stephanie was in a car behind her best friend, 29-year-old Tiffany Alexander, when a car flew through an intersection, slamming into Tiffany's vehicle.
Normally when you see an accident like that, you hear the sound of screeching brakes or swerving tires or something. There was nothing.
The mother of 3 died at the hospital. Police say 25-year-old Esnabil Escobar was behind the wheel of the other car. They claim her blood alcohol level was 5 times the legal limit.
I don't know anybody in this room if we'd be standing at a 3.8. I don't even know how she was driving at a 3.8. It boggles my mind.
And I don't know the lady. She obviously has problems.
Smith says he hasn't spent much time thinking about Escobar. Instead, he spent his days reflecting on Tiffany's life alongside his wife.
She was the driving force in that family. She was always so happy, always so, when she walked into the room, she just lit it up.
He tells me she'll be truly missed.
She made...
Unbelievable what this country has become. But look at Americans. We're a mess. So it's no surprise. People were dropping like flies. It's amazing that, considering how they want to keep us safe all the time, they don't do anything with these huge concert events. This one in Boston
is an event that music fans look forward to every year. It's really another indicator that summer is just about here, but multiple WBZ viewers reached out to us over safety concerns at this weekend's Boston Calling. They say it was crowded, passageways just jammed with people, and access to water was tough. WBZ's Brandon Choi joins us live in Austin with the music festival's response. Hey, Brandon.
Hey, Courtney. So we're talking about Sunday in particular. That was the day that general admission was sold out. Fans report those long lines for water and being so packed at times that emergency services couldn't get to people who needed help.
The amount of people that they let into the stadium was so unsafe.
There was so many people. You literally couldn't move.
In the hours after Sunday's sold-out shows, fans who attended Boston Calling took to social media to air their concerns.
There was no getting through, like as an individual or as a group.
This was Margot Lee's third Boston Calling, and she says most people showed up to see the 4 headliners. All 4 acts were back-to-back on side-by-side stages, while Lee says the other side of the festival looked more like this.
That was the problem, was that you had probably about 40,000 people stuck in one area instead of being spread out throughout the complex like they were hoping.
The amount of people that were there Sunday was at the very least double.
Alexa Nikiforou went to all 3 days this year. She took these videos of people being pulled out on stretchers Sunday.
I found someone that was near me that actually got separated from their friends and had a panic attack. And then during Hosier's performance, people were dropping like flies and getting pulled out in stretchers. back to back to back.
On Tuesday, the festival released a statement saying it was well below the capacity rating, but added the safety and well-being of our fans, artists, guests, and staff is paramount. We will continue to work with public officials and our operations team to improve the experience, layout, and ultimately create a better environment for everyone.
Doesn't seem very safe. And yes, T-Lam, it does look like torture to be in that crowd. I never particularly liked crowds, but that kind of crowd? No. No. So, you ready? Since his guilty verdict, he's now raised $200 million in a couple of days. Keep donating to the billionaires multiple times over. That's right. Keep falling for the stage show. Holy shit. A whole lot of people are hurting. And yeah. Trump. God chose him. Yeah. He's doing an awful lot for all the people who are hurting. Making over $141,000, Minneapolis mayor thanks Biden for his student loan forgiveness and posts this. Thank you, Mr. President. I have zero to pay back. Why don't I have any credit anymore? My law school loan that I couldn't pay back because I had to end my practice due to those safe medications put on the market by the FDA. Destroyed my career, destroyed my finances, destroyed my health. Thank you, Mr. Biden. $141,000. Yeah, he's a good recipient of a student loan forgiveness. Especially when our economy is going down fast. Restaurant apocalypse starting to sweep across America. Really bad news for the U.S. economy. You can get a really good idea how the economy is going by looking at what's happening to the restaurants. When the economy is struggling, restaurants get a lot less traffic, and poor performing locations, those restaurants get shut down. Most people have very little discretionary income to spend as a result of our cost of living crisis, and that is particularly true for our young adults. Americans under the age of 40 love to eat out, but these days most of them are experiencing financial stress, and this is having an enormous impact on the restaurant industry. All industries are not doing well. If you want to read more of Michael Schneider's article, the link is in the chat. Now, I want to just link below to some videos that some of you might have an interest in watching. How smartphones shrink our brains. Smartphones are not doing any good for all of us. Every place America has bombed, not every place, but this video highlights Cambodia, Guatemala, Korea, Afghanistan, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Iraq, Laos, Nicaragua, Sudan, Vietnam, Cuba. We have done so much destruction. It is beyond comprehension how anybody could think that we're a good country. We have destroyed countries. We have killed so many innocent people, but we love to point the finger at other countries. They're bad. Their soldiers are bad. Well, and this is, Scotland is holding an inquiry on the COVID experience. People making life or death decisions did not have the experience. Did not have the experience that an awful lot of those experts are talking about. Let's just listen to a few minutes. I like okay, this is scary. Oh, Neil Oliver. It's right here. But it's scary that I am forgetting a whole lot. Yeah, Neil Oliver.
Sitting in Edinburgh, the Scottish part of that inquiry, as it probes the devolved administration's response to the pandemic. Joining me to discuss this is consultant pathologist Dr. Claire Craig. Welcome, Claire.
Thank you, Neil.
Have you been keeping up with the testimony, let's say, that's been being given to both of these inquiries?
I have been watching it, and it has been really quite shocking. And it really stands in contrast to the English inquiry, because these are real people telling their own stories in a way that we haven't seen in England.
What has been the nature of the inquiry in England? What's been the style and the content then?
So in England, what we've predominantly seen is people who are already in positions of power going and defending their decision-making. Whereas what we're seeing in Scotland are people whose lives are affected getting to finally be heard.
I've seen some of it, and I'll be the first to admit, I haven't been on top of it as much as I should have done as another observer. It's unbelievable testimony that people are coming forward with about. It's beyond neglect.
It really is, and it's really, really important, because what they're doing is lifting the lid on what happened in care homes in spring 2020. And that is such a fundamental part of the COVID story. So 46% of the deaths in Scotland that were attributed to COVID happened in care homes. So if that story isn't quite the one that we've been told, it's important that it gets heard.
Jasmine, it is quite astonishing, is it not, that these stories are being told, and by and large, the general population still are unaware.
It drives me nuts, because, as you say, this is really important. We've got people, real ordinary people who have suffered terrible things, actually getting the chance to say something. But the mainstream media is not covering it. And I think it's because, generally speaking, it can't bear to. The editors, the journalists can't bear to admit that they were wrong and that they were part of this, because it's not just the care homes, it's not just the medical establishment, it's the government, it is the media, it's the civil service. Again, this sort of big blob of individuals who all were speaking and thinking in lockstep, and now it's being thrown back in their faces and they don't like it.
Claire, what was happening? I mean, the people to whom this was happening, you would regard as amongst the most vulnerable in any of our communities. And what the treatment that seemed to be meted out to them is beyond neglect, to the point where it just seems cruel. What are we looking at here in terms of the testimony as described?
So I look at it broadly as falling into two camps. So on the one hand, we had people who were given do not resuscitate orders. And the reality is that most resuscitation is not successful. And when it is successful, you often need intensive care support. But that happened at the same time as hospitals were denying admission to anybody that had a do not resuscitate order. So it wasn't that it was do not resuscitate, it became do not give any medical care to these people. So that was one catastrophe. And then the other side of it was what was happening with end-of-life medication, whereby people who, we had the protocols that were binary in terms of what could happen if somebody deteriorated. And if they weren't going to be actively treated and put on ventilators, then they were to be given end-of-life medication. Now, it doesn't mean that everybody in a care home with COVID ended up on end-of-life medication. And there would have been some for whom that would have been appropriate because they were going to die. But it seems that there is a bigger middle portion here than I had appreciated at first, because there are so many people who've been telling stories about their loved ones who under other circumstances would have been treated very differently, and who, for lack of visitors, which was a big deal, did not have the support and care they normally would have had, and were being given these drugs, which are very powerful and dangerous, and which palliative care experts were calling out in May 2020, because these protocols were very explicit about how you accelerated the drug, but said nothing about winding it down. And these drugs suppress the respiratory drive. So where they have a great usage in end-of-life care when you've got cancer, it's a different story when you've got an acute respiratory infection, and the drive to breathe is incredibly important in terms of survival.
Yeah, so you go, sorry,
I'm just...
All right, I'll put the link in again. You can watch the full interview here. Yeah, so here's our fabulous president. He's Commander-in-Chief, speaking to the graduating cadets at West Point.
Because he wanted to visit Los Angeles. Anyway.
He was sad about that bill they passed.
Yeah. So here it is. Nothing will inspire a graduates of West Point like the Commander-in-Chief petering to a stop as he either forgets or loses interest in the story he's telling. You ready for this? This is great. Watch this.
Putin was certain that NATO would fracture. I met with him right after being elected president, right after I was sworn in. And we talked about this very issue. In the fall, he decided to, look, I shouldn't get into this problem. It gets me a little excited.
A little excited.
Hey, look.
Hey, come on, man.
Ever since he converted over to solar power, he dims every time he steps into the shade. That's what that is.
Solar power.
Yes.
Solar power doesn't work.
He stepped into the shade and he dims right out.
Was certain.
And look at the emotional range he has here. He goes, whenever he gets excited, he has an emotional range from A all the way to B. Watch this.
Would fracture. I met with him right after being elected president, right after I was sworn in. And we talked about this very issue. In the fall, he decided to, look, I shouldn't get into this problem. You should. It gets me a little excited.
You shouldn't get into it.
Shouldn't get into it. Gets me a little excited. War talk gets me excited. Oh, right, I'm speaking to the graduating cadets at West Point. I shouldn't get into this here. It's inappropriate to talk about war at West Point. Police officers in New York on high alert after terrorism posters circulate online. Oh, it never will end.
Concerns this morning about the terror group ISIS-K. The concerns not just overseas, but now here at home.
Did you hear that? It's ISIS-K. ISIS-K.
Concerns not just overseas, but now here at home. ABC's Brianna Nally has the details.
This morning, police on high alert after terror threats made against the upcoming Cricket World Cup on New York's Long Island.
We take every threat seriously.
Nassau. Nassau, Long Island. Oh my God. At the Cricket World Cup, the Cricket ISIS-K. They want to kill the cricket players and fans. I'm going to play some of this, but get over it, Americans. You got to face the truth about who we are.
We end today's show on the U.S. war in Afghanistan, a major investigation by the New York Times into the role of one of America's most important allies in the war against the Taliban, a man named Abdul Razak. The Times writes, quote, for years, American military leaders lionized Razak as a model partner in Afghanistan, their if-only ally in the battle against the Taliban. If only everyone fought like Razak, we might actually win this war, American commanders often said. He ruled over the crucial battleground of Kandahar during a period when the U.S. had more troops on the ground than in any other chapter of the war, ultimately rising to lieutenant general thanks to the backing of the United States. American generals cycling through Afghanistan made regular pilgrimages to visit him, praising his courage, his ferocious war fighting, and the loyalty he commanded from his men, who were trained, armed, and paid by the United States and its allies. The New York Times continues, quote, but to countless Afghan civilians under his reign, Razak was something else entirely, America's monster, unquote. According to the Times investigation, Razak, who was assassinated in 2018, built his success on years of torture, extrajudicial killing, and abduction. He was responsible for the largest known campaign of forced disappearances during America's 20-year war in Afghanistan. New York Times journalists Matthew Akins and Azam Ahmed spent more than a year on the investigation, traveling across Afghanistan, going through thousands of documents. Their article headlined America's Monster, How the U.S. Backed Kidnapping, Torture, and Murder in Afghanistan. Matthew Akins joins us now from Cambridge, Massachusetts, contributing writer for the New York Times Magazine and a fellow at Type Media Center, who is covering conflicts in Afghanistan and the Middle East since 2008. His second piece on Abdul Razak in the New York Times Magazine is titled America's Monsters. Who was Abdul Razak? Matthew, welcome back to Democracy Now! Well, why don't we start there? Who was this man? What is his record? And why did the U.S. back him?
Well, I first encountered Abdul Razak in 2009 when I was just a young freelance journalist, newly arrived in the region. And I was in the borderlands between Afghanistan and Pakistan. I had by chance met some drug traffickers who introduced me to Razak. I mean, he wasn't much older than I was. He was barely 30, but he was already the commander of the border police there. He and his tribal militia were fighting fiercely against the Taliban, but also their tribal enemies, and had gotten the backing of the United States. So that's how he began. That's how he got his start as the leader of a militia on the border. But by 2011, as the U.S. surged, the thousands of extra troops ordered by Barack Obama arrived in country, Razak was appointed police chief of Kandahar province, which is a very strategic province in southern Afghanistan, focus of the surge. And so he became a key partner of the United States at the centerpiece of this strategy. And he ruled over not just that province, but eventually became the most powerful man in the South, one of the most powerful in the entire country, became very popular to those who hated the Taliban. And he was finally assassinated in 2018 by a Taliban undercover hitman. And when that happened, he was standing next to the top U.S. general in the country, General Austin Scott Miller, who lauded him afterward as a great friend and patriot.
Yay, great friend and patriot, and we support the most evil out there. Killed and tortured. Hundreds. L 2024, free speech, where not in this failed constitutional republic, and certainly not in Carol's chat. Okay, well, don't get that, but whatever. And here is Jimmy Dore on 50 years later. Still trying to get the word out about the USS Liberty attack. Who attacked? Israel attacked a U.S. ship. Still, they're trying to get the word out. Oh, man. But people do get the word out. That's what's interesting. But it's like a whole lot of Americans don't care to listen. Why Ukraine has allowed Nazi worship to continue festering in its country. Okay. A whole lot of people are getting the word out. A whole lot of Americans don't care to listen. It's phenomenal. You know, the Nazi regime in Ukraine being the most corrupt European nation. Yay! USA, 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 let's support them. And then, of course, what's going on? You got it. Israel, Gaza,
Ukraine, and Anthony Blinken dining at a Nazi-themed restaurant in Kiev. There was the
State Department Secretary dining in a restaurant with a Nazi theme in Ukraine. That's who we are.
This Boris Johnson, he also did, where was he? And he also had a bunch of Azov battalion stuff. I mean, just the cognitive dissonance with I don't know, do you think it's cognitive dissonance? Like they don't realize, oh, there's a bunch of Nazi paraphernalia around here? Or do you think they know and they're saying, yeah, these guys are heroes? I mean, which one? Tell us first what they did and then answer that question if you think they know what they're doing.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's start with Anthony Blinken, who is, what is he, like fourth in line for the presidency? Something like that. I think after well, it doesn't matter. He's a very high level official. He's not
somewhere up there. Yeah.
He went to this restaurant in Kiev, and I had actually recognized this restaurant that he went to because I have done reporting on two different Americans who I also had photographs of at that restaurant because it's kind of iconic. One of the walls in particular, it's got different badges of different fighting groups, mercenary groups or battalions, what have you, of people that have, placed their thing there. So I recognized the place and I did a little bit more digging after Blinken went there. And I found, Waffen SS insignia on the walls. I saw an Azov battalion flag, which was pre-rebrand when they still had the Nazi Sonnenrad on it. Right sector. And I also found on the owner of the restaurant's Facebook page his praise for C-14, a basically Nazi terror gang that was contracted by the Kiev municipal government after the Maidan coup to basically ethnically cleanse the outskirts of Kiev of Roma encampments. And so I've previously published video of them carrying out pogroms and taking axes to tents and, that kind of thing.
Unbelievable. I'll put the link in. You should listen to this. And here, they're dining in a restaurant that has a Nazi theme, and our number one ally is Israel. That's kind of weird, isn't it? No, it's just about war and killing and money. Okay. This is what they are distracting you from with the Trump verdict. Joe Biden gave permission to Ukraine to use U.S. weapons inside of... I don't understand why people say that it's a distraction. We just have so much going on right now, and you really do need to be paying attention. You don't have to pay attention. You don't have to dig for any of this information. It's all over the place. So the Trump verdict wasn't a distraction from Biden giving permission to Ukraine to use U.S. weapons inside of Russia, which Russia has said, don't do it. Don't do it. That's a no-no. But, yeah. This is what we do. The West is hell-bent on provoking Russia into hot war. And Pepe Escobar, in the event of the use of long-range weapons, the Russian armed forces will again have to make decisions about expanding the sanitary zone further. Do they want global conflict? It seemed they wanted to negotiate with us, but we don't see much desire to do this. No, we don't negotiate. We just keep killing and killing and killing until we finally get our way. China condemns U.S. deployment of previously banned missile system to the Philippines. Everything is a provocation, but I have to say again, it's very hard to discuss this because there is so much going on behind the curtain, right? So much going on behind the curtain. So when you see China getting upset with the U.S., that, well, it's obvious that's a provocation. What's going on with Ukraine and Russia? The U.S., it's using Ukraine as a proxy army. I mean, you also have to understand that China is a big player in Agenda 2030 and the New World Order. So is Putin. World Economic Forum. Moscow is a World Economic Forum hub. Okay, so, but all of it is just to show everybody that this is the way of the world. War. And eventually, when these wars finally expand, finally break out, and a whole lot of people around the world get a little tired of all of the killing and all of the suffering, then they'll finally be shouting out, and saying, yes, United Nations, please take over. We need a one world government because there's too many governments that are causing all of this suffering. Please do something to protect us, right? I will link below to this if you want to check it out. Is the West secretly behind another color revolution aimed at toppling Russia?
Are we marching into World War III? Are we seeing another color revolution go down? Are we creating a new Ukraine in the country of Georgia? Here with us now is Alex Rubinstein. He is the co-founder of the investigative journalism project, Active Measures, that he has put together with Kit Clarenberg, I believe. Kit Clarenberg is with Alex on this. Alex, welcome to the show.
Yeah, that's right. We've been around for just about a month now, and I think we're doing some hard hitting reporting.
That is really cool. Yeah, we've had Kit on the show several times. He's great. You're great. What are you guys mainly covering?
Well, I think this stuff that our followers have come to expect from the two of us. Definitely things dealing with.
All right, it's getting a little late, but if you want to know what's going on in Georgia. Another color revolution. A whole lot of people think that these are just spontaneous, organic happenings. People are getting tired, and they'll do whatever it is that they can do. All right, hang on. Sorry. I've posted several videos on who's behind all of the color revolutions, and they're just, yeah. There's just an awful lot of power people that get those color revolutions started. God. You will never understand the pains, agony, the fear, and the suffering until war comes to your doorstep, and that's exactly right. Is this Gaza? Palestinians? No. It's another genocide going on in the Sudan. The other genocide going on, Congo.
أنا الله يفك دمي أبوي وأخواني احنا هناك في أرض قتلوهم وشردوهم وقاعدين يدبوا الأولاد الشفع الصغار وقاعدين من النسوان كمان قاعدين يشيلوا القروش وبيشيلوا منهم ممتلكاته وما بخلوهم بيجوا. واخوي قال واحد قتلوا ما عارفين ما هلا وانا وامي واخواتي اختي اثنين بس جينا وتاني كمان ابوي ذاته محله ما لقيناه ومحله كله حرقوا حاجاتنا يشعلوا ما جبنا ولا حاجه معانا لينا لو ملابسنا بس.
We need a ceasefire. We need a political solution so that these people can go home safely and go back to school, go back to their jobs, and start their life again.
And Dominique, you need to bring that message to the White House. You need to bring that message to the military-industrial complex. Because if you think that this is separate from everything that the U.S. does in the Sudan, you're wrong. You're dead wrong. Do some research. It is phenomenal. The amount of suffering that we have caused, it is, and we cause it more and more and more. And guess what? When you have evil and you vote for the lesser of two evil, you get evil. And that evil that you have been witnessing and watching destroy other countries, kill innocent people in other countries, eventually it gets turned on you. Because evil, they don't have any capacity to distinguish. They don't protect their own. They don't care what happens to their own. Hezbollah shoots down large Israeli drone in expanding fight. All right, we've got a lot going on. We have an awful lot going on. And 75% of Americans say the country is out of control. Whopping 3/4 say U.S. is out of control, on the wrong track, under the Biden administration, under all administrations. It's only gotten worse and worse and worse. But for those who have comfortably lived, yes, I will say that word, a privileged life. Because considering what we've been doing to other countries and what those who survive are evil, don't get to live as we have lived. And where are they? Where are these 75%? Do they think maybe voting for Trump is going to save them? Oh my God. Overall, they hold that opinion, making it the highest on record under any president since the tracking began. The last time the number was this high, it was under George Bush, 2008, with 70%. Obama administration had 65%. We don't do anything about it, though. Israel is currently dropping bombs on Aleppo, Syria. Syria, Lebanon, the war has expanded. Here, Berlin burns over Israel's Rafah attacks. A whole lot of protests are going on over those Rafah attacks, those specifically. If you want to watch any more of this, I'll put the link in. Look, whatever is going on in the chat, could you knock it off? It's so not worth it. And, you know, for any of us to think that we're better than anyone is absolutely absurd. You know, a whole lot of truthers, which I can't stand that label, but think that they're better than those who are willfully ignorant. I have thought about that. Who is better? People who know what's going on and do nothing, or those who say, not interested, and go on living their life doing nothing? Isn't it the one who knows what's going on? We haven't been able to organize anything. We haven't been able to even stay a cohesive group because a whole lot are messed in the head. We have no trust. You know, I mean, come on. Do we really need to create more discord over things that are pretty stupid as far as I'm concerned? You know, is it worth it? So, this woman, I'm going to play this. She lived in the West Bank for 7 months. And she's quite articulate, talks about her experience in the West Bank.
I'm going to talk about my experience dealing with the IDF and going through an IDF checkpoint. I really want to make this video so you guys can know, at least from a foreigner's perspective, what Palestinian people go through every day. I lived in Palestine for 7 months, and in that time, I probably dealt with the IDF on 5 separate occasions. Quick spoiler alert, none of these experiences were positive. The first time I went through an IDF checkpoint, I was with a group of my Palestinian friends and one of my coworkers. We were going from Nablus to Ramallah. So during the trip, we were all having a great time, sharing music, playing music from the speakers and things like that. And then as we approached the IDF checkpoint, my Palestinian friends told us to quiet down and to get our passports out. So I was aware of the IDF, but I didn't realize that we would have to go through a checkpoint to go from one place in Palestine to another. But they're actually stationed throughout the West Bank. So we were actually in a queue and we were waiting for the other cars in front of us to get past the checkpoint. And when it was our turn, we started slowing towards the checkpoint. And the first thing that you see when you go through an IDF checkpoint are machine guns. So at each checkpoint, I want to say that there are at least 4 to 5 IDF soldiers, and they all bear huge machine guns. And while you're going through, those guns are pointed directly into your car. So basically, if they wanted to shoot and kill us at that point, they could have. We reached the checkpoint and they talked to us like dogs, that's number one. So while they're talking to us like dogs, there's machine guns pointing in our cars. There's 2 in the back who are laughing and whatever. So while we were all aware of the fact that we could die right there because a huge gun is pointing in our face, they're back there having laughs and whatever. So I'm black, my coworker's white, and our Palestinian friends are brown. And so they noticed a difference in races, and so they asked me and my coworker for our passport. There was no amount of respect in their tone. It genuinely felt like they did not see us as people, which I believe that they didn't. There was one instance during the night when the IDF blocked a road that would typically be open, and so we had to take a side street in the car in order for us to get on another road for us to eventually get home. So they also block roads whenever they want to. But every experience following that was hugely negative and very demoralizing, and it really made me upset. The Palestinian people had to experience this because each time that I went through a checkpoint, I really felt this huge rage inside of me. Because what gives these people the right to kill us if they wanted to? And so when we're talking about Palestinian liberation, we're literally talking about giving them the right to go from one place to the next to show their foreign friends a good time without risking death.
A whole lot of people are coming out talking about, what this apartheid state is, what it really is. And this is another Biden official who quit. Who quit after report denies Israel blocking Gaza aid. Abject lie. And she couldn't do it.
I have, about myself, I've worked for the State Department for a while, and it's not just working in the State Department. I've worked in humanitarian issues, refugee crises, basically most every refugee and humanitarian crisis involving conflict in that time. So Kosovo, Bosnia, Iraq, Afghanistan. My role in all of this specifically was supporting our team that oversees assistance to Gaza and the Middle East, but specifically working on this report. We were directed in early February by the White House to come up with a report that assesses different countries based on 2 things primarily. One is their adherence to, as Alex mentioned, international humanitarian law, which is the law that says there are wars, but there are rules in war. There's rules about the kind of weapons you can use, about making the distinction between civilians and combatants. And basically it's a body of laws that says even in war, there are ways that you have to mitigate the consequences for civilians and soldiers. And we adhere to that. Israel adheres to it. It is international law. So this report was looking at adherence to that body of law, as well as whether countries allow humanitarian assistance. There were several countries we were assessing, but the one, unsurprisingly, that generated the most debate was Israel. I was working on this report with many others. There were a handful of us who were very, very engaged in every sentence of that. But at some point, we were removed from that report, and it was moved up to a higher level to be written and edited and cleared. So even though I had worked on this pretty heavily since this directive from the White House came out in early February, I did not know what was in the report until it came out. That said, I was actually hopeful that it would be a honest report, because earlier that week, the White House had made an announcement that it was going to pause the 2,000-pound bombs that have really caused disproportionate destruction in Gaza. So they had announced a pause on that. And I was actually pretty hopeful that maybe this report was going to be honest. So when the report came out on May 10th, late in the day, I read it, and I had to reread it because I couldn't believe what it said. It said very clearly, it actually, so on those 2 points, I was surprised on the point about Israel's adherence to international humanitarian law. For the first time I'm aware of, we admitted in very, very weak terms, but we admitted that Israel is likely using U.S. weapons in violation of international humanitarian law. I was surprised. That was a step forward in admitting that. I was shocked, however, that it also went on to say that it is our assessment that Israel is not blocking humanitarian assistance. That is not the view of subject matter experts at the State Department, at USAID, nor among the humanitarian community, and that was known. That was absolutely known to the administration for a very long time, not just within the government, but having received reports and letters from organizations on the ground in Gaza, organizations the US government funds, credible organizations saying Israel is blocking humanitarian assistance. And that's not to say that Israel is the only problem in this. There are certainly, it's a conflict, it's difficult. But these are professional organizations with expertise, local knowledge. They know how to work in conflicts. They know how to do the negotiations, to get the assistance to where it needs to be. They know how to do it. The issue is they are not being allowed to. And it's a range of issues. It's not just blocking trucks from going in, because we see over the course of this conflict, sometimes trucks go in, sometimes they're delayed, sometimes assistance goes in, but then it's ratcheted back. But we're seeing consistently through this a pattern of obstruction that the aid that prevents these organizations from doing their work and delivering this assistance to the people who need it. It's a variety of things. It's delaying or blocking visas for aid workers. It's causing trucks to be unloaded because there is a single item that Israel considers dual use. And the things that are considered dual use are incredible. Tent poles, flashlights, surgical scissors. All of these things, if found to be in a load of assistance, will cause the whole thing to be offloaded, back everything up. And it's this pattern of arbitrarily limiting, restricting, or just outright blocking assistance going in that has caused the very grave situation in Gaza that we've heard about. Famine. This is not hunger. Famine is a word that we are very, very cautious about using in the humanitarian sector. Words like famine and starvation are only used when very specific indicators have been met. So the fact that there is famine is extraordinary. That doesn't have to happen in a conflict, but it has happened here. And the remedy, when you've reached the stage of famine, the remedy is not more food. Absolutely more food is needed, but for people who are experiencing that extreme stage of malnutrition, that requires an immediate intensive medical intervention. And where are you going to find that in a country now where the hospitals have been destroyed? It's for the people who've reached that stage, it's too late. And any effort to bring in more food is absolutely necessary, but anything that comes in now it's too little too late. And the reason we've come to this point is because of Israel's obstruction. And to see that written in a report, a joint report from the State Department and the Department of Defense to Congress is ludicrous. And I was just...
Stacey, we just have 30 seconds.
I think most of the world's people know exactly what's going on in Israel, know exactly what's going on in Gaza, in the West Bank, to Palestinians, to the children, to the little ones that, as you can see, are starving. Okay? Anyone who could possibly believe our State Department, when they come out and say there's no indication of genocide, there is no indication that Israel is preventing humanitarian aid from getting in to Gaza, anyone who believes that is someone who is very dangerous. As dangerous as the liars. They're no different. And psychopathic, as far as I'm concerned, because there's so much information about what is going on in Gaza, in the West Bank. We all know it. U.S. is right there doing it with Israel. And it's very hard to take. So, it's 6:56. I do hope that all of you stay safe. I want to look at radar one more time before we head out. Okay, so all right, so they've weakened this supercell down here in the, I think that's the, is that the San Antonio area? Or is San Antonio a little bit more east? Not sure, but look at how these fly. They separate, they fly down. This is all being controlled. Okay, so we know that, right? All right, you got an awful lot of thunderstorms happening in, I think that's a little south of Dallas. Maybe not. I think it might be. I don't know. But look, Texas, okay? You're just getting hit over and over again. And you've got Amarillo. But what the hell is going on? Look at how they're just moving in, well, they can move air masses in different directions at different speeds, and you're witnessing it right here. This is not natural, okay? This is not Mother Nature. This is man controlling the weather with electromagnetic frequencies, nanotechnology, and look at this, what's happening up here in South Dakota, and I think Minnesota might have, well, let me take a look. Let's refresh. All right, so they expired some in Nebraska, which that was new, because I didn't read that off in the beginning. Custer, Lincoln, Logan, Nebraska. All right, that one expired. But what we have now for the tornado warnings, 3. Oh, Custer, Nebraska. Well, let's just bring that back. Briscoe, Texas. Ransom, North Dakota. North Dakota. So, stay safe. You know, do the work necessary to, you know, pick yourself up to a higher level. And live honestly and speak honestly. Yeah. Do we need to trust one another? Absolutely. Do we? No. What does that mean? We all have to work on ourselves to establish ourselves as trustworthy human beings. If we don't do that, you betray all of those around you. You betray people here. It's not okay. We have to establish ourselves as trustworthy human beings. You don't have trust, you ain't got nothing. Very important. So, on that note, thank you all for showing up. I hope to see you tomorrow night. And, yeah, stay safe. Be aware of your surroundings. And good night and good luck. Ciao, guys.